Joining us are Michael Pinto, chief economist at Delta Global Advisors, and Dan Gross, senior editor with Newsweek. I'll tell you what, let's start with the establishment and let him give us his establishment view, and then Michael will tear it apart.
That's not me.
Dan.
When did I become the establishment?
Just now.
Okay. Shows you how the old establishment must be completely dead.
I'll tell you, it happened so fast. I've been through several cycles of being the establishment and then not. Anyway, let's start with your view of the corporate cash. What should they do?
Well, look, I think, for a generation of executives, 2008 was a scarring moment in the same way the Depression was for people my grandparents' generation. You had people who lived through the Depression who wouldn't invest in a stock, who wouldn't spend money, and so they're in this kind of mode of hoarding cash. J.P. Morgan has made $16 billion in the past year, and their dividend is still at a nickel a quarter. They could certainly afford to ease up, whether it's hiring, whether it's increasing wages for people whose salaries have been cut, boosting dividends, buybacks, all of which would put money back into the economy, help boost demand a little. But they're very reluctant to do so. And I think a lot of it has to do with a kind of overreaction to the fact that they had such liquidity problems 2 years ago. No one wants to be caught in that situation again.
Right. Well, then a fair question is, have we created a whole new mindset among CEOs? I mean, I will reference, for example, the mindset of European central bankers who, after going through the Weimar inflation, even today, will run from anything that suggests inflation. Right. Have we perhaps permanently changed the mindset of CEOs regarding cash? Dan, you first, then Michael.
Yeah, I don't want to say permanently, but it seems like for the foreseeable future. And, you have that coupled with the fact that hiring lags demand. Companies will turn on their factories or call people back after they get orders going well for 6 months. And we're not seeing signs of rising demand. And we're not seeing Washington, in either the form of the Fed or Congress or the White House, saying that they are going to do anything to boost demand in the near future.
Well, can the Fed boost demand, though? Let's start there. The Fed has purchased $1.25 trillion in mortgage-backed securities, $500 billion in GSE debt. How can the Fed create demand? Let's start there. I don't want to be antagonistic.
Actually, I don't think anybody's saying that it ends up with the Fed. It's not,
he just said the Fed hasn't done anything to create demand. Corporations will spend their cash when they believe final demand will be there. The consumer is still in full deleverage mode. Their savings rate is about 4%. It should go much, much higher. And they're still smarting from the credit crisis. What he did say was very important, that companies are very afraid of having another fall 2008 event. They are hoarding cash because the money markets got completely frozen in 2008. That's why they're hoarding cash. And they're doing it because they believe that another credit crisis down the road.
Are we saying that's irrational?
No, it is very rational because the next credit crisis will be a sovereign debt crisis, and it's about 3 years away.
Dan, do you believe that it's... Oh, we've lost Dan. I'm not sure that it is rational.
Okay, 30 to 50% of all federal tax revenue will go to pay the interest on the debt in 2015.
Yeah, but these are multinationals. It's not all about America. They're spread around the world.
China is slowing. Europe is slowing. They have embraced austerity, thank God. The United States has yet to embrace austerity. That's coming, too, down the road. But short-term austerity is very painful.
People are still making good profits, though. It's what's in the interests. What is in the long-term interests of those companies? And companies are different from individuals, because you've got to work for the good of that organization. And if those CEOs are scarred in an inappropriate way psychologically, then they should go.
No, they're
and
not
the next generation that's prepared to embrace the opportunity.
You want them to hire,
and spend
so you're saying they should spend money, hire people, buy capital goods when there's no final demand?
I'm saying that
total household debt now stands at 92% of GDP.
The most interesting...
It's normally about 40% of GDP. Households have a lot of deleveraging ahead of them, so they're not going to spend money if there's no final demand.
I don't see that in Latin America. I don't see that in Asia.
And when they do start spending money, it's going to be in Latin America and Asia because manufacturing capacity is falling.
I want to know how many CEOs through this earnings season, they're not saying they're going to expand, but at what point will they go in front of the board with an expansionary plan? They must be on the verge of doing that because they're looking
when they see the consumer has
a year ahead.
When they see the consumer has reconciled their balance sheet.
Do you not think the consumer will have turned tail in a year's time?
No, not at all.
That's a very serious judgment.
household debt, I just said household debt as a percentage of GDP is at all-time record highs.
But when will it turn? We're looking into the future.
When they sell assets and pay down debt. That takes years. It takes years for a private sector to become
Are you
stable.
writing off the American economy for years now?
Yeah, I am. And I think our worst our worst troubles are ahead of us because we bailed out the private sector by seriously endangering the public sector.
I think you're wrong.
And you can't do that.
I think you're wrong. The AAA rating will always stand in this country.
Well,
you're wrong.
Well, AAA rating is held for Enron too and CDOs, but they still collapse.
Yeah, because you can always raise more tax. The American government can always tax people more. It will always pay its bills.
Excuse me. If you can raise taxes to 100%, does that mean you're going to increase revenue?
Nonsense.
What is nonsense?
That's a political view.
You could raise taxes and always get more revenue.
Political view,
so you could raise taxes and always increase your revenue. There's no change in behavior.
No,
we can just raise taxes to 100% and pay our national debt.
America will always be able to pay its bills.
And how do you know that?
Because it will always
because the bond vigilantes will always be asleep.
You're just peddling the power of nightmares, and it goes on all the time.
This is the
power of nightmares.
You know what?
Wars are fought because of that sort of attitude.
That's what people told me in 2006 about the housing market. Oh, nationally speaking, the housing market could never contract, could never decline. But it brought down the whole global economy, Mr. Hobbs.
I have to say, first of all, I wish I'd brought a black and white striped shirt. And second, I've known Michael for not a long time, but maybe 5 years, and
6 years?
He has been remarkably prescient about a lot of things. So, anyway, we got to go. But I have enjoyed sitting here listening to this, I'll tell you that.